Hello and welcome back. So in the previous episode, we learned how to make a PHP router on laracas.com. This video, and how it essentially worked was you go to index.php. That's the start of the application lifecycle. It loads the required functions and then takes you to the router. On the router, it pattern matches any URL. First of all, we parse the URL from the server request URI, and it pattern matches anything that's in our routes array, and if it matches, then it takes you to the routes array URI, so this one, and if it doesn't, it aborts, and by default the abort code is 404, and this is the 404 PHP view. So that's what we did in the previous video. In this one, we're going to connect to MySQL, and to do that, I won't upgrade right now. I'll do that later. To do that, we are going to use a software called dbeaver. It's a free software. Just Google dbeaver. Dbeaver, I'll show you. dbeaver. You can download the community edition. It's free, and it works for, I think, Windows and Mac as well. Yes, so I'm on Windows, so it works for Linux and Mac as well. I like it. It's a decent alternative to Table Plus, but I think Jeffrey uses Table Plus. So let's get into this video and start to create a MySQL database.
All right, so now that we've managed to build, admittedly, a very basic and primitive router, I think the next order of operations or the next order of business is to learn how to interact with a MySQL database. So I'll warn you, there's a lot to cover here, but I hope you're excited. Let's get going.
Let's go.
The first thing we should do is create a database. And of course, if you want, you can do it directly from the terminal like this, MySQL-U for username, ours is root, and we haven't set a password. And sure enough, I'm in. So yes, I could run the command create database, my app, whatever you want to call it, end it with a semicolon, and sure enough, one row affected, which means I have created a new database. But yeah, these days I prefer to use a GUI for things like this.
Me too.
So instead, I will hide the terminal and bring up Table Plus, which we looked at in the first or second episode of this series. All right. So I'm going to right click.
So quick recap, he recommends either Table Plus or PHP MyAdmin. Both are very, very nice, very good softwares. But I'm just used to dbeaver, and I find that for my purposes it works just fine. So I'm going to stick with dbeaver.
Make a new connection. The name can be anything you want. I will call it demo. And yeah, pay attention to the host and port here. We will stick with the defaults, but later we'll need to reference them from our PHP. So just remember a host.
Important to note, this is only for the first time manual setup. Once you have this setup done, once you have a connection created for your MySQL, then you just have to click on create database. That's it.
Host of localhost and a port of 3306. All right, next, the user was root. We don't have a password because it's local. And that should be it. So let's test it out. And I do get green, so I'm ready to connect. And there we go.
Nice.
All right, so now to select a database, I can press Command K, and we called it My App. Otherwise, if you want to create one from scratch, you can do it here. All right, and we're in.
Okay, let's do this. So that's all you need to do. Create a new database once you're connected. I am connected to my local host. I have a bunch of databases. And here I'm going to create a new one by clicking on create new database. I call it my app. Okie dokie. Here we have the new database. And you can see tables here. Okay. So it has nothing, absolutely nothing. I'll explain what this does. Yeah, it has absolutely nothing. This database has no tables right now. See, table name is nothing. So I think he's going to ask us to create a new table.
So now what we might want to do is close this out, and I will right click on demo and choose edit. Yeah, and if we want, we can set it to always load the My App database, and I'll save that. Okay, so now when I double click, I'm directly within that database. All right, let's create our first table, and we will use the very common example of blog posts. Okay, so I just used the word table. At least initially, you can think of it sort of like an Excel spreadsheet. That's a common comparison, or even something like a form. We've all filled out a web form before. So imagine you're using WordPress or something, and you want to create your first blog post. What would some of those form inputs be? Well, you might have something like, what is the title of this post? So I will call the column name title. The data type, you're going to see all sorts of types here. Trust me, you will mostly use 10% of these. Yeah. But the common ones are things like varchar or varchar. That would be any number of characters up to 255. You could have text, and that would be useful.
I think it stands for variable character, so any character here.
For long form text, you could have timestamps, you could have decimals and floats and integers. Again, there's a lot here. You will mostly use 5 or 6. So in this case, why don't we use...
Recap, it's varchar, text, timestamps, integers, floats. That's it.
Varchar 255. Okay, next, is nullable. Can the title be null?
No.
Well, ask yourself, would it make sense to have a blog post with no title? Probably not. So let's set it to no. And then do we want there to be a default value? Not really. So that is our first column. But notice how everything has a background of green in Table Plus. That's because it will not persist until you save it. So I will press Command S or Control S. And now I have created a new table that for now only has a title. And then we have our ID, which is the primary key. For now, think of it as a unique auto-incrementing number that represents a specific row within your table.
Okay, let's go. So here is my app. There are no tables. Create new table. I will call this posts. But I didn't see an ID auto increment, so let me do that as well. ID auto increment int 11. That's the table name, right? No, that's not a table, that's posts. Okay, cool. So posts is the name of the table. Column name will be title varchar or varchar 255. Varchar 255 and can't be, doesn't, yeah, it can't be nullable. And charset was UTF-8. Let me just see if it defaults to UTF-8. It should. I don't mind if it would. Not null auto increment. Okay. Oh, it defaults to this UTF-8. It does actually UTF-8 MB4. That's fine. I guess it should be okay. So we have a title and yeah, we don't have the ID key. Let me add that. I think I will need to, but that's fine. I think. Why are you red? Why are all of you red? View table. Yeah, I am viewing the table. Configure columns. I guess you'll be okay.
So yeah, what we have right now is the...
If it's not okay, I'll pause the stream and I will download Table Plus and do exactly what Jeffrey's doing. I'm new to this as well, if you hadn't figured it out yet.
structure of the table, but we don't actually have any data within it, as you see here. Okay, let's do it. I will double click, and notice the ID will auto increment and it'll start at 1. So you can see there is a default value there. So that means I only need to worry about title, my first blog post. And again, notice how it's green. It won't persist until I save. So Command S, and notice it sets the ID to 1. If I do another one, let's say my second blog post, and once again, Command S, now the ID is 2. So this auto increments, and it's a unique identifier that points or represents this specific row. All right, so think about everything we covered in this video. We created our first database called MyApp, and we connected to localhost on port 3306. Try to remember that. And then we defined our first table within it. And right now, that post table just consists of an auto-incrementing ID, the primary key, and then a title. But of course, in real life, you would add things like the body of the post, maybe a status for the post. Are we in draft form? Has it been published? Has it been archived? And then later, you could have relationships to other tables. For example, it might make sense to include the person who created the post, the user who wrote the post. So think about it. If I added a second table called users, I could then draw a line from a record in the users table to a record in the post table. And that would be my way of saying this user created that post. And that user down here created this post. And this is what it means to have a relational database.
Love it.
Okay, so you know what? My original plan for this video was to also write some PHP to connect to the database. But on second thought, that probably needs to be its own lesson. So to wrap up, and this is also your homework, all I want you to do is play around and get comfortable. Maybe add a new column, create a new table, update a record, and you'll be good to go.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's do this. So I am not comfortable, but let me try and be. So I have this column, but that column doesn't have any data yet. Okay. That's why it's red, because yeah, I want to persist this. Do you want to persist changes in the base? Yeah, I do. That's why it was red, because I hadn't saved it. Let's go. So this is the SQL query, excuse me. Persist. There you go. Okay, amazing, amazing. We're getting there. And here, if I create a post, so if I go to I think I'll have to create a new column, create new. Okay, let me go to the view table. Yeah, excuse me. Okay, create. It should not be column, it should be a row. Here it is, data. Cool. So title. Okay, love it. Value. Okay, give me a second. This is a little confusing. So I'm going to pause this. Oh, here's the save button. Got it. Yeah, in the posts, this thing, I need some data. I will add title. I can't edit it. I'm typing, but it's not editing. If I go to this, my app, button posts, and data grid, filter order, edit, yeah, add row. There you go. We're getting there. Okay, cool. My for edit cell. Interesting. My first post, save, and I will there has to be an easier way to do this. I usually never use a raw database. I use an ORM, object relational mapper, which is essentially what Jeffrey was alluding to. So you connect this to PHP and then have essentially PHP do all of this work for you. So edit cell, no, add row, and edit cell is shift enter, so I'm going to do that. Okay, my second post, save. So these are green. I'm going to save all of this. There you go. I have 2 posts. If I refresh this, where's refresh? Yeah. Yep, these are my 2 posts. Cool. What's the homework? Let's see the homework. Play around with table plus UI, become comfortable creating tables, adding columns, and applying changes. Okay, I've played around with dbeaver UI. I don't think I'm comfortable with it yet, so let me get comfortable creating tables, adding columns, and applying changes. Okay, let me create another table then. My app, create table. I will say the name of the table is comments. Okay, we're gonna need comments. I'm gonna save this by pressing Ctrl S, persist. What happened? Check table name. Syntax, check the manual syntax. Engine InnoDB chart set this. Okay. Okay. So what was the engine here? Engine was InnoDB auto increment 0. I don't see any difference. Okay, properties, InnoDB this, comments, InnoDB and that. Okay, let me try and create a column first then. Maybe that's what the error is. Column should be comment. It has to be, you know what, let me call it ID. Comment ID, not null, auto increment. Okay, and I'm going to create another column, comment, and it can be varchar 255. So a fun piece of trivia, why the number 255 is significant, it's because it's slightly memory efficient. So for example, this means there can only be 255 characters in the comment. Now why we choose 255 is because computers, like I mentioned, start counting at Oh, actually, forget about that. Computers use binary, right? So, double of 2 is 4, double of 4 is 8, double of 8 is 16, double of 16 is uh, 32. Yeah, 32. And double 32 is 64, 128, and then 256, right? So, because the maximum can be 256, we use one below that. Because we start counting at 0, we have 255 characters. So comment cannot be null. It doesn't make sense to auto increment. And let me have a default value. Nice positive comment. Okay. Now let me save it. Yeah, see, it'll work now. Persist. No, it doesn't. Collate line 3. Okay, so let me delete this. Actually, I think I might want to try table plus. I'll prefer the... Oh, table plus has a GitHub? Oh, the issue tracker. It's just issue tracker. Will you guys? But is it table plus Mac only? Do they have a Windows client? Mac, iOS, Windows. Hey, what do you know they do? Download. Let's go. Cool. You watch me learn a new database software. I'm gonna exit this. I don't like it. I mean, it's great software, but cancel. It's fun. It's free and open source. It's useful. I don't want these to persist. I'm grateful for it, but I just think that it's not serving my purpose exactly right now. Let's wait for it to finish downloading. It's huge. That's what she said. Let's go. Cool. 180 MB. Done. Open. Yeah, open when done. I think Chrome is scanning the software for any viruses or something like that. Let me link in the meantime. Let me link this episode in chat. Windows dialog. I got it. Yeah, Windows. Oh, it's just this. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, I accept. Next, table plus. Is there any path variable installation? No. Okay, cool. Cool, let's go. That's actually quite big for database software. It was like 350 megabytes. I hope they don't have like they don't ask me to log into my email or something like that, or create an account on Table Plus. Let's go through their docs. They support Postgres, MySQL, Redshift, Microsoft SQL Server, SQLite, MariaDB, I believe this is, Redis, Cassandra, CockroachDB, MongoDB, and I don't know what Vertica is. Such good UI. Let's launch. I have a soft spot in my heart for free and open source software, which is why I've defaulted to dbeaver, but yeah. Name, he called it demo, I'm gonna call it MySQL. Localhost, port, interesting. I don't know what the default port is. Do they state that in the docs? Supported databases for MySQL. Getting started connections, yeah. Interesting. Okay, cool. Cool. I think there's a drop down here. Tag local port. User is root. Password is super secret. Test the connection. Connection is okay. Let's go then. Let's go. Amazing. This was easy to set up. Yeah, I'm on local MySQL. No database is selected. Am I connected? Show connection list. Local. Open. Yeah, I was connected. Databases. Okay, here it is. Amazing. So we created a database called My App, I believe. Yeah, here it is. Okay, I see the posts table here. First post, second post, but it doesn't have an auto incrementing ID. So you know what? I'm feeling adventurous. Can I just delete this database from here? Yeah, I can. So deleting a database in SQL terms is called dropping it. Database name is my app. Yeah, I want to drop it. Let's start from scratch. I want to create a new one and call it my app again. Okay, and open it. Yeah, let's go. This is the old one, right? So close connection. Yeah, this is the new one. Here I need to add a table. New table. The name of the table was column name is ID. That's fine. Yeah, name was, what's it called? Posts. Okay, I press Ctrl S. What? Why did it become untitled table? Can I drop this table or delete this table? Ignore foreign key check. Okay, cool. Press S. Okay, that's easy. New table. Posts. POSTS. ID 0 serials. This primary key. Add a column here called title. Default. Oh, there should be a number. Sorry. Right, column name is this. Let me call it. That's not how we did this at all. So let me remove this. Delete. Okay. Post was this. Search for column. No, there's no primary key yet. Then we don't have any data yet, but the structure is ID, which is serialized. It should not be nullable. Is nullable? No. Okay, cool. Okay, I'll make this a little smaller so it's easier to see. So here the ID is the column name, and then it's a serialized data. It's not nullable, and column default is nothing because it doesn't make any sense to have a default. I'm going to add a column, call it posts. No, title. title. Search for fields. Data type will be varchar. Is it over here? No. Is it here then? No. It should be here. 255 should work. It should not be lullable. No, that doesn't make any sense to have a default. Cool. Let me save this by pressing Ctrl S. Amazing! It did it. It did it. It did it. If I go to the posts table, create some data. Okay. Add a row. ID should be default. My first post. Add another row. My second post. Okay. Okay, so I get it. My first post. So I press tab instead of tab. I need to press enter. That's how table plus works. And if I press Ctrl S, yeah, let's go. I created posts. So let me do this with a new table as well. New table, call it comments. Comment ID is fine. I will add a row. I'll add a column. This should be comment. Type should be varchar. Let's say 127, just to be different from 255. It can't be nullable, and it doesn't make any sense to have a default here. Cool, let's save this. Okay, so in comments, if I go to data, add a row, let it be, hey, nice post, and I'll add another one saying insight full. Save this. Okay, it worked. Cool. Now I think we're comfortable with table plus. It was actually easy. I'm glad this was, I think, initial. I have probably used table plus a few years ago, but this is one of my initial. You literally saw me install it right now, so I have nothing to hide. But thank you for watching. This was how to create a MySQL database on Laracast's PHP for Beginners course. Go check them out. Huge shout out to Jeffrey Way for this amazing free tutorial. He's just put it out on the internet. Alright, thanks for watching. You have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye.